Good evening. This is Godchild coming to you with another video. And before we get into this video, I would like for everyone to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And turn on that bell notification so every time I drop a video, you would know. And please, everyone, let's get me to 500 likes, 500 subscribers, I mean. And as you can see in that title, we will be talking about who am I? I am who. So this video will be talking about identity and knowing who you are. This video will be broken down into probably say about 3 to 4 videos. So at this time, let's get into the video.
Have you ever wondered, what is the meaning of your life? Who am I? If you have, you are not the only one, most people have. But think they just don't have the time to find the answer or don't know where to look. From experience, I know that unless you know the answer to the who am I question, no possession, place, person, or condition will ever satisfy you for long. We were born on this earth with a last name that our parent gave us. This last name was given to us to identify who we are or what family we belong to. Does that really say, who am I? I answer that question with a number. The last name I was given at birth was Brazel. That tells me that I belong to the Brazel family. But that not the only family I belong to. So once again, who am I? As I sit here, I'm getting to think that Brazel is not my only identification. When I think about this, I see myself as a mixed person. I have too much identification I can go by, but that still want to tell me the truth about who am I? For me to find out who I am, I would have to say that I'm from every name that is on this earth. My mom-dad last name is Brazel, and my mom-mother maid last name is Anthony. That still want to identify who I am. Who am I? Is a question that we all must ask ourselves. Can you still call a pit bull if it is mixed with a German Shepherd? The pit bull lost its identity once the German Shepherd was mixed in the bloodline. So once the bloodline has been mixed, it no longer a pit bull. So, should I really call myself a Brazel if the bloodline is really mixed? Could it be hard for us to really identify ourselves when we really don't know what we mix with? Could I really call myself African American, or could I really call myself others? When I really don't know my own identity to say that I am an African American. Last name doesn't identify, nor will it give you your identity. So, for many years could we all have been robbing from our own identity? When I look up the word identity, it gives me the meaning of 2 types of meaning. The first meaning, the fact of being whom or what a person or thing is. The second meaning, a close similarity or affinity. If I go by the definition of identity, then I really don't know, who am I? Once again, my last name doesn't identify my identity and my identity don't identify, who am I? We hear about many people being locked up for steal someone else's identity. But who identity is we really stealing if we don't know our own? When a family has family reunion, why is it always just that one side of the family that gets together? Could it be that we don't want to be bothered with the rest, nor could it be that our identity is being stolen from us? Our identity is something we all can't take for a joking. When a body is at the corner office with a tag on its toe saying Jane Doe or John Doe, that person body hasn't been identified or the identity was identified. Neither so by saying all that it means that every woman is a Jane Doe, and every man is a John Doe, because we don't know our identity, nor could we be identified by the bloodline. When you take, who am I, plus, who I am, don't equal out to my identity. Could DNA really give us our identity, or will it identify who we are? That's something that could be really investigates. When I look up the meaning of my last name, it tells me that it Irish, variant spelling of Brazil. But that not identity, nor could I be identified by it. Could someone please identify who I am, so I would know the identity of who am I? If your last name doesn't identify who you are, then you really don't know your identity. Let's look at Trump. Trump is his last name, but is that his identity or that what we identify him by? Let's look at the meaning of his last name. Trump mean 1. English, Devon, metonymic occupational name for a trumpeter, from Middle English trump, trumpet. 2. German, Bavaria, metonymic occupational name for a drummer, from Middle High German trump, drum. So, by looking at the meaning, do that identify him as who he is, or is that just the identity? Does our last name identify the way we act, or is it the identity of who we are? If you never do anything in your life, the best thing that you could ever do is to identify your identity. Identifying your identity is not only knowing who you are, but will explain a lot of things like your health. Identifying your identity could lead you to becoming a king or queen, but you will never know if you don't identify your identity. Some people may think this may be crazy. Ask yourself, is it crazy to ask, who am I? If you find that crazy, then maybe you the crazy one. As I look at my dad's side of the family, my father-dad last name is Green, and my dad-mother maiden name is Reese. Those further doubts, who am I? Now I really must find out my identity to identify, who am I? I must treat this like a needle in a haystack. Could the Brazel, Anthony, Green and Reese identify my identity? That answer is no. As I look back and try to find out, who am I, and who I am, remind me of the movie, The Bourne Identity. When Jason was stealing from his identity, could our brain been drug as babies so we could not be identifying our identity? Who knows, because I sure don't. With the entire last that would take place to really identify our identity may take a lifetime to really identify, who am I, and who I am. Sometimes we are asking a very important question. What is your blood type? Some of us may say A, B, or C, but they still want to solve the problem of, who am I, or want to identify, who I am. By not knowing your identity, it throws up red flags. Those red flags could go something like this. Who am I? What do I believe in? What is my purpose? What fills me with joy and wonder? These are questions that I am just beginning not to understand after 46 years of living my life, and I must admit that getting there has been extremely difficult. The hardest part for me was I asked myself two big questions that served as a launchpad to begin my journey of self-discovery, and that are, who am I, and who I am. Here is some question to think about as you read this. 1. What or who would you is if you knew your identity? 2. What are your core personal values if you knew your identity? 3. What makes you genuinely happy if you knew, who am I? These are tough questions, and the answers may not come easily or quickly. In fact, I found myself having to think and rethink my answers several times. This work is hard but necessary in order to identify your identity. While I can't say that I now know everything about my identity, but the biggest change came from revisiting dreams and aspirations that I had long ago put on the back burner while I'm on this journey identifying, who am I? Some identify themselves by the race or gender or sexuality of their choice. Others identify strongly with their career choice, the place that they live in, or the things that they love. But still, does that still justify the identity of, who am I, or does that identify, who I am? I always believe that males should be encouraged to pursue what they want, even when their interests change. So, neither my ethnicity nor my gender defined my identity growing up. But if you ask the younger me how I identified myself, I would have said that I saw myself as a fan of anime. I consider being African American to be part of my identity, but being African American was never the whole of my identity at all. The funny thing about being African American is that the ethnic identity is it's a mix of so many cultures: Spanish, Portuguese, American, Polynesian, Malaysian, etc. There's no such thing as a true African American. Instead, the African American identity is, for the most part, integrated, not to mention lots of food and the importance of family. The who am I question has far-reaching changes than you realize when you first ask it. It also requires some effort to uncover the answer. Once you find out who you are, a powerful force emerges. You want to dig deeper. You want to find out more. You start asking other questions such as, am I my body or my mind? What is the meaning of my life? What is spiritual enlightenment? How can I find happiness? What is the law of attraction? What is meditation and how can it help me? And what tools, methods and techniques can I use? When we look at our identity, we must look at the way we bring kids in the world. We must have that talk with our children that identity plays an important part in our life. There are so many people in the world whose identity is not justify who they are. Some of us have identity that don't match identification. Let me clear something up in what I am saying. When we have children, we must teach our children the right and wrong when it comes to dating. For example, can't allow our children to date someone that is too close to the family. If I was to go out and have a baby by my cousin's sister who is not blood related to me, then that would make my cousin the uncle, cousin. Now this happened, now the child don't know what her identity is and wouldn't know what to call his cousin, which is now his or her uncle. When you have a big family, it can be mind-boggling figuring out how you're related to everyone. When there are steps, seconds, greats, and gran, it's no surprise that your head will start to spin, trying to decipher your family tree. And if you have a blended crew, things can get even more complicated. Although there are many terms to describe how you're related to each person in your family. What I'm about to talk about, I hope it will justify what I am saying. I am about to list something that will help clear up when it comes to family. We can't go wrong.